A new opinion article published in The Hill is shedding light on the role of black men in American society. The piece talks about what it means to be black in the country right now, the racial injustice faced by black men, and how their vote could define American politics in the 2020 presidential election. Antjuan Seawright wrote that piece, and he joins me now. He's a CBS News political contributor and a Democratic strategist. Antjuan, always great to have you with us.
Always a pleasure.
All right, so I want to start with the racial bias in the nation's criminal justice system. You say that it doesn't just affect black men, but the entire community. Can you tell us more about what you mean by that?
Well, I would just tell you, as a young Southern gentleman, I think at 35 years old, when I see an older African-American taken away from his family because of some structural damage in the criminal justice system, it impacts the entire community. That's some child, whether it's a daughter or a son, that will not have a black man in their household to look up to. And we know what that means long term. When some son is taken away from their mother or their father because of structural damages or structural brokenness in the criminal justice system, we know what that means long term for that child ability to be able to function post coming out of the criminal justice system. So it has tremendous impact. These issues that we find ourselves discussing at an elevated tone today are issues and conversations that we've been having for generations in communities that look like mine, with impact on black and brown boys who look like me.
Antjuan, roughly 13% of black male voters supported Donald Trump in 2016. We know that his handling of the coronavirus pandemic, which has disproportionately affected communities of color, as well as how he has reacted to racial tensions following the killing of George Floyd, have all peeled away support for him among the white community. What is happening in the African-American community in terms of support, even though it was a small amount of support, 13% last time around, but do you expect that those people will continue to stick by the president, or that what's happening right now might change those dynamics?
Well, you can't turn down the volume on what that means. What's small to some is a large number for people, particularly those who look like me and those who spend their time in this business trying to advocate for what we feel is right for our community. I would hope that black men in this election will adopt the Southern philosophy I learned growing up, is that there's no education in the second kick of the mule. We know the dangerous rhetoric and divisive actions Donald Trump will bring with a second term, because there's proof in that from the first term. And we know how he's handled issues that have direct and indirect impact, not just on black men, but communities that black men come from, whether it's healthcare, whether it's infrastructure, whether it's education, whether it's wages and jobs, whether it's the economy. All those things couched together make up things that will have impact on the quality of life for black men. So I hope that black men will take a different approach to this election. I'm very pleased with the lessons we've learned as Democrats from the previous election. We see initiatives like the Chop It Up initiative from the Democratic National Committee with a laser focus on black men. We see several other constituency groups who are putting their money where their mouth is, treating black men as investment, not an expense. And we see Joe Biden in the Biden campaign taking nothing for granted and making sure that every constituency matter, particularly consequential constituencies like black men.
Well, I want to ask you about that, Antjuan. I know as a Democratic strategist and the presumptive nominee being Joe Biden, and even before that, that you have a place of affection in your heart for the presumptive Democratic nominee. But one of the critiques against the Democratic Party and against Biden has been a willingness to take the African American vote as something that is guaranteed. He even got into trouble before George Floyd's death and many of these protests for saying essentially that if you're African American, you should be voting against Donald Trump. What more is he doing, and how has his language, rhetoric, and perhaps even his reflections changed in this seminal moment?
Well, as a black man and as an African American, I understand the frustration from some who felt like this party has not done enough from a long-term perspective in investing in the most loyal constituency in a generation, black people in general. So I can understand those frustrations, but I also understand that this thing is a marathon, not a sprint. And these problems were not created overnight. Therefore, they were not fixed overnight. But I can tell you, because I know his heart, no one believes in investing or making the right investments and hearing from and making the right adjustments more so than Joe Biden in terms of the importance of the black vote in this election. I think that's been very reflective and why African Americans, starting in my home state of South Carolina, came out in large numbers to give him the gravity he needs to be pushed over the finish line first. And so I think that is a step. I think this party, we still have some work to do. I'm very pleased that we are taking some necessary steps and demonstrating through our actions and through our investment that no community is worth taking for granted. And if we are successful in November, it will be because African American voters have done their part and the right investments have been made in the African American community in order for us to be set up to do our part.
All right, Antjuan Seawright, thank you very much.
Thank you.